It's Benedict Collins from One News in New Zealand. Given the struggles that we're seeing in this region, and given the economic slowdown that we're seeing in China, how important is it for countries like Singapore and New Zealand to have a diverse trading base and not be too reliant on one country, such as perhaps China?
We would like to do business wherever the business is, and China is a very big market. So to say that you don't want to do business in China, well, you have to have a very stout heart to make such a decision. But at the same time, we would all like to enhance our cooperation and our trade with other partners as well. And for this part of the world, I think that means having an open region, one with connections to America, to Europe, to India, to Australia and New Zealand. And to develop those ties so that you are able to cooperate omnidirectionally. And, well, if there are ups and downs in one place, you can't help being affected by them, but you may hopefully not be swamped by them. And that's what we're trying to do. We do it bilaterally. We have the enhanced partnership between us. We have the FTA between us, which has stood and held. It was the first one we ever concluded. And I think yours was the second
one, yes.
And we also have other regional arrangements. We have the CPTPP, which is now a reality. We've got the RCEP, which is now also a reality, and New Zealand is part of that. And we've got the the digital economy partnership agreements, which has Australia is not in. I keep on saying the wrong country. But New Zealand is in, Singapore is in, we have a couple of other countries, and there's a queue of participants wanting to come in. And I think that's the way we should work, so that you have overlapping groups, and they each contribute something, and it's not quite as good as having one whole cloth, everybody free trading with everybody else, but short of that impossible ideal, we are not bad.
Yeah. And I'd just say, look, we're a country of 5 million people. There's a world out there of 195 other countries and 8 billion people. It's very important for us that we do business with as many people as we possibly can. That's how our folk at home are advanced. One in 4 of our jobs at home are really around trade. So it's really important that days like today, we're actually wanting to deepen our economic relationship here in Singapore and across Southeast Asia are really important to us. We have good scaffolding and good architecture in place around trade. Obviously, Singapore and New Zealand were, with 2 others, were the primary instigators of the CTPP, and that's been something we feel very proud about. But I think for us, it's like we want to be able to do business with as many people as we possibly can.
Thank you. The last question from Singapore media, please.
Hi, afternoon, Prime Ministers. Jean from the Straits Times here. In a similar vein, how should small countries like Singapore and New Zealand respond in an era of increasing deglobalization? And for example, with how New Zealand is considering joining AUKUS as well as negotiating a new type of partnership with NATO. So how will this affect Singapore and countries in the region here?
Well, there's the economic aspect and there's a security strategic aspect. The economic aspect for a small country is other countries can deglobalize, we cannot. And there's no hope. I mean, if Singapore has to make all the chips which for ourselves, we will never make chips. And if New Zealand has to eat all the food which it produces,
we'd be very large.
It won't make a living either. So we've got to trade, we've got to do business, and I can't do it always multilaterally with 200 countries in the world, but I can find partners and do more together with the partners. And that's what we're doing between Singapore and New Zealand and with other partners as well. On the security side, I think different countries will have different postures. You must take as a reality that this is the way the world is. Not everybody is best friends forever with everybody else. And some get along, some are at odds, some are not at war, but neither do they trust one another. And we have to work our relations with as many of them as possible on a stable basis. There will be security partnerships, there will be alliances, there will be treaty obligations in some cases. Different countries are in different positions. New Zealand is a member of ANZUS, Some parts of that agreement are fully active, some parts are not. Australia is a member of ANZUS too, but they decided they also needed AUKUS, and they have got therefore an additional layer with America, and they have also brought in the UK. Singapore is not in ANZUS, we are not in AUKUS, we are not a treaty partner of the United States. You are through ANZUS, and so are the Australians. We are not. We are what is called a major security cooperation partner of the US. It's a technical term. We are the only one of its kind in the world. It means we do a lot of security cooperation with the US, security in terms of counterterrorism, for example, anti-extremism, but also in terms of defense cooperation, in terms of defense purchases, training. But we are cooperation partners, not treaty partners, not treaty allies. And there's a fundamental difference. And therefore, we can cooperate with them in many different ways, but push come to shove, there is no treaty obligation. If America is attacked, we go to America's defense. If we are attacked, America comes to our defense.
Yep.
That's not where we are. That's not where we stand. And I think where we stand is the right place for Singapore to be. And New Zealand is in a slightly different position, and you will no doubt be assessing how, in the light of the changes in the strategic environment, you want to adjust and improve that position. But that's really for New Zealand.
Yeah, I'd just say for clarification, New Zealand is not a member of AUKUS, obviously, but what we are wanting to do is the previous government had the same position, which is to explore the potential of what's called Pillar 2. We have a long-standing nuclear-free position, which is non-negotiable for New Zealand, and will remain unchanged under my premiership as well. But within Pillar 2, there are options for us to actually start. The pathway's just been announced in the last couple of weeks. We'll continue to explore opportunities that may sit there. Likewise, we're not a member of NATO either, but we are a partner of NATO. And again, I guess in many ways, Singapore and New Zealand, we have our independent foreign policies, as probably 195 other countries do too. But for us, we want to work with like-minded countries that stand up for the same values that we believe in, and so that's why we do partner where necessary with NATO countries. But also, if I think about Singapore and New Zealand, we have a very strong alignment on our core values as small countries in the world, and so where it makes sense, we will partner with like-minded countries that advance not just our own interests, but those values that we actually care about deeply